I grew up with the idea in my mind that I was the only blind person to ever exist. I, I didn't know hardly, I don't think any blind people in my childhood. I thought I was the only one. I thought I was like, I don't know, a part of like, only one in a million person with a disorder where I couldn't see any faces. So, it never occurred to me to ask back then as a kid how people that were in school to teach me things, how they knew how to help me. I thought it was just like a random code that I was being taught. Like instead of print, I was being taught braille, and instead of writing with a pencil, I'm writing with a computer or a freaking iPad later on in life, or a phone nowadays. So I thought I was the only one. I didn't know anybody else that had the condition of blindness. So I thought that I was the only one. Well, that all changed. The first time it changed was in 2018. That was when I met my first blind friend. Uh, uh, and so I met him in 2018. We were going to a aquarium trip. We were going on a trip. It was a Besby trip. And we both immediately hit it off, as friends, of course. And I learned that he was also into Chucky, so I did my Chucky voice, which even at, what, 13 going on 14, no, 14 I think, yeah, 14, it was decent enough to be classified as a good impression. A little higher than Brad Dourif, but, a little, because I was young, so it wasn't exactly spot on, but it was the cadence was there, even at 14. Anyway, so I met him, and we were on a trip together, and we both had fun conversations. We both talking about Chucky and whatnot, and I had just gotten into Chucky too. This was like some months after I got into Chucky, and I was still obsessed with it, and I was looking at everywhere. I was looking everywhere for Chucky, and I was on YouTube all the time watching Chucky and looking at new Chucky news and whatever I could find. And so, that was kind of me. So I met him in person, actually. Fast forward to 2 years later, 2020. This was right before the pandemic. I learned of a telesupport call where other blind people other teenagers at the time get together, and they hop on a call, and they talk about blindness and everything else. I'm pretty sure it was my Besby teacher that learned of it and told me about it. So I watched an interview with a few other blind teens that were on a little YouTube podcast. And then I just came home from a play reading. I was supposed to be in a play that year. So I was busy that one. I was busy that night. I had a play reading I was reading for, and then I came home and I hopped on a call, and it was fun. I met some nice people there on the call. And then I hopped on again. This was like a couple weeks later. This was when pandemic was getting bad, and schools were closed and everything. I was doing, all us kids were doing virtual school and virtual learning at home. Um, so then fast forward to 2021, I learn about the blind community, that is. There's other blind people in a whole community. Now, remember, when I was a kid, I thought I was the only blind person ever to exist. I just thought I was just some person who couldn't see faces. I didn't know about any of the famous people back then. Or if I did, I didn't think too much of it. Anyway, now I'm realizing that there's a whole other community of people with the same condition that I have, right, where we cannot see faces. Some are visually impaired, some are totally blind, like myself. Some have 20 slash like a good amount of vision. Some have 10% vision. You never know. So, it's been interesting, all the people that I've met who are blind or have visual impairments. It's really interesting. Fast forward to this year, actually. The same kid that I met at the aquarium trip, he passed away. I didn't know about it when he passed, so I couldn't go to the funeral or anything. But I get a bad feeling that something happened to him, because I hadn't heard from him in like over a year. So I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on? Part of it was my fault. I didn't think to call because life got in the way, and I didn't keep in touch with him as much as I used to. And so I call his phone one night, and the phone, he seems to call me back, right? But it's his dad. And I'm like, oh, like, hi? And he goes, yeah, you called my son's phone? I said, yeah, I'm his friend Anthony. I go by Anton on here, but I'm his friend. We met at the aquarium trip. And then he goes, yeah, he died, man. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. So that was a heavy night for me. I was very shocked and upset. Basically, he had cancer, so stuff on the brain and everything. And I always knew he had that, but I didn't think it would take him that soon. I thought they would cure him from it, but nope. So this month is kind of, March is when it was the month of March when I found out. So that's going to be a hard month because I'm like the anniversary of when I found out my friend's dead. So that's just, yeah. Anyway, but anyway, I just want to come on and share that story because I remembered it. I was just thinking of God knows what earlier, and I thought, let me make a video about how my perspective changed from when I was a kid to like now, and how I used to, because I used to think I was the only blind. I used to think there was no other blind person in the world. I thought I was the only one. I think that's a good amount of kids when they're raised, or they grow up visually impaired, and at least a good amount of kids, they think that there's nobody else to relate to them because they don't know anyone else that's visually impaired like them. So I had that experience too. So, now I know there's a whole bunch of people. It's like almost half the population. So, yeah. Anyway, or at least 20% from what my friend Garrett says. Anyway. Yep. Anyway. Where was I going with this?